up here are the ones for sure where the rights of people we represent seem to be in conflict. And understandably, there's no shortage of deep emotion surrounding this debate, and especially for the women who, through no fault of their own, have found themselves victims of despicable and horrible acts. Our Declaration of Independence talks about the inalienable rights that we have as people, among them life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And it's important that our founders recognize that these rights, they're not a grant from government, but they were a gift from God. They preceded our government, and therefore we don't have a right as a government to limit them. And so when we look at that, we realize that we can't have liberty, we can't have pursuit of happiness without the right to life. Roe v. Wade was decided in 1973, and of course much has changed in the last nearly 50 years. We know a whole lot more than we did then. Nearly 50 years of scientific advancement have unveiled to us the amazing miracle of the development of a child. I asked my mom actually if she had an ultrasound picture of me, and she said no, and that's pretty common for anyone who was born when I was born. Right around the time when Roe v. Wade was decided. Ultrasounds were not very common. There wasn't much we knew about what was going on, but much has happened since then, and we now know we have 40 ultrasounds now where we can see facial features, we can see a child smile, we can see them express emotion and react to external stimulus. We know a child's heartbeat can be detected as early as 6 weeks. In the early 70s, when Roe v. Wade was being discussed, abortion advocates would often call it a blob of tissue, or it was an understanding that there was an appendage of a sort. But now we know so much more about it. According to the American College of Pediatricians and the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons, they said this: "We now know that the unborn child is a living human being, rapidly developing from the moment of conception and capable of feeling pain long before viability. Even in the pre-viability period, the child's heartbeat, the child can express himself or herself through smiling and other actions, and the child can respond to the environment outside the womb. In short, as basic embryology textbooks now teach, life begins at fertilization, a fact that surprises no one in the medical profession." And so, Dr. Skop, could you speak to the development of a child who has not been born yet? Is it fair to consider still a blob of tissue, or what do we know now that we didn't know back in 1973?
Well, we have beautiful ultrasound that tell us so much. And in fact, some people want to call it fetal cardiac activity instead of a heartbeat, but the blood vessels exist from about the 16th day after conception. The fetal blood cells are actually already in place by about 21 days when that heartbeat, when the electrical activity that generates the heartbeat is in place. So the whole system is there and it's running that early. Within just a few weeks, we can see facial features, we can see arms, legs. By 9 to 10 weeks, the baby has fingerprints and fingernails. At 10 weeks, ultrasound tells us if that baby's going to be left-handed or right-handed. We can see a strong preference for sucking one thumb over the other. And this all happens in the first trimester. It is beautiful, and it's widely available to every American to look on YouTube and to see how much they look like us at such an early gestational age.
What about a preborn baby's ability to feel pain? What do we know now that we didn't know back in 1973?
For a long time, people or researchers in the field thought that it was necessary to have a completely formed cerebral cortex to feel pain. But we now know that the sensory receptors begin at 7 weeks, that the spinal reflex arc, which allows withdrawal, begins at 10 weeks. A fetus at about 16 weeks who's undergoing amniocentesis and is actually accidentally stuck with a needle will do all of the things that we would do if we experience pain. It will withdraw from the pain sensation. Its heart rate will go up. It will release stress hormones. By 20 weeks, the thalamus, the lower part of the brain, is fully functional and connected to the extremities. And experiments in infants who don't have complete development of the cerebral cortex show that they show pain. We can see it on their faces. When fetal surgery is performed at as young as 18 weeks, the anesthesiologist always treats the fetus as a separate patient. He doesn't just give anesthesia to the mother, he gives specific anesthesia directed to the fetus to help that fetus not feel pain during that surgery. So we, certainly by the time of viability at around 22 weeks, we know that unborn human being feels pain, and the dismemberment abortion procedure that is used most commonly at that gestational age has got to result in excruciating pain to a member of our own species.
The gentlelady's time is